Hey guys, welcome to the show. I'm coming to you live from the blizzard in New York City. It's a Sunday evening here in the city. It's cold as hell and the snow is coming down in buckets. It's absolutely insane. This is the second big ass snowstorm that we've had in the last couple of months, and God, I am so damn tired of this winter. I cannot wait for spring. But you guys didn't tune in to watch my weather report. You guys tuned in to watch me talk about the news. So let's do that. Before I get started, please like and subscribe. Helps me out considerably. Let's get to it. Let's get to the really big news that's happening today. In Mexico right now, they are battling a drug cartel in a town called Jalisco. Is just outside of Mexico City. And apparently right now in Guadalajara, it's okay, but in Jalisco, it's looking real bad. And the Mexican army and the Mexican defense has been going balls out against this cartel called El Mencho. And the head guy, his name is Mencho. And look, here's the thing, folks. I know I'm going to go off on a tangent here about blaming America, but the iron pipeline is the weapons that we send into Mexico. You know, be it JSOC, be it the CIA trading weapons for drugs. I mean, if you look at these guys, yeah, they might have some other kinds of weapons, maybe Chinese weapons or something like that, but much of the weapons that they have are from us. I think, if I'm not mistaken, 50% of the ammo they get comes directly from the American army. You know, not to mention that there was this other cartel, I think they were called Los Zetas or something, or Zetas, Los Zetas, and they were trained at Fort Bragg, for God's sakes. So, I mean, all of the stuff that we do to destabilize other countries all ends up coming back to us. And look, we are the market for this. All of these drug cartels, we are the market. We buy the majority, or we get the majority of our drugs from Mexico, and we are their biggest buyer. So legalize, tax, and regulate drugs. I'm just saying, you know, cut the legs out from underneath these guys. If you're really concerned about the drugs coming in from Mexico, the fentanyl and all that shit, a lot of it has got to do with the fact that we purchase it and we also provide the weapons for those guys. I mean, Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico, she has talked about how their own army and their police forces are outmanned and outgunned by these cartels. And where do you think they get their guns from, man? They don't have AR-15 factories in Mexico. You know what I'm saying? They get them from us. And, you know, all of these drone technologies and stuff like that they use, they have anti-drone rockets and stuff. We provide that for them. We also provided the training for them. So, you know, as much as Donald Trump screams and yells about the drugs coming in from Mexico, we only have us to blame and our war on drugs, which has never worked. Over the last 55 years, our war on drugs has not worked. And honestly, at this point, I think that that's intentional. I think that we like it that way because it destabilizes Mexico, keeps their government in a tenuous position, and it benefits us. All of this stuff is to benefit us. Jesus, it's a sad state of affairs, and I feel bad for people that are living in Mexico. They have to deal with this crazy ass shit. And by the way, just a side note on this, Laura Loomer, psycho, crazy ass bitch that looks like the fucking Saw puppet from Jigsaw. She said that, oh, we did this. You know, we took out, you know, El Mencho and it was all coordinated by America. No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. Sheinbaum did this shit. Sheinbaum and her own National Defense Force and her military did this stuff. So we didn't have jack or shit to do with this. Okay, moving on. Let's go to the Supreme Court. Now, the Supreme Court did a thing, and a lot of people are praising what they did, and to a certain extent, I do agree that I'm glad that they did this. But at the same time, tariffs are not inherently a bad thing if they're handled properly. This is something that Donald Trump doesn't understand. A blanket tariff on the world is obviously not going to cut it. Do you think those penguins on that goddamn island are paying it up? I mean, I'm sure they're all looking deep in their pockets to try to pay that 10% tariff that Donald Trump put on them. Whatever. The tariff tool in our tool bag is a useful one. If you build up the infrastructure here first before you implement the tariff, very much what Joe Biden did with the chips, the chips program that he was trying to do. We built up the infrastructure here. That way we can make those chips here. And then we can put a tariff on the countries that are selling them to us from abroad, from out of the country. That is how you do a tariff. Tariffing on certain things, one at a time, not just this broad tariff thing. So when the Supreme Court, and I believe it's called the IEPA, the Emergency Powers Act, that's what Donald Trump was using to implement these tariffs as if it was an emergency. Very much what he did with the fentanyl thing is like we're bombing all these boats in the Caribbean because of the Emergency Powers Act. It's just a way to use the executive branch's power extrajudicially. I always have a hard time saying that word. And by doing that, he has put our economy into a cocked hat, attacking enemy countries and allied countries alike. And the thing is about Donald Trump, he's just doing it psychotically, willy-nilly. He'll have some excuse about some economic thing, and then he'll turn around and say something like, we got to put a tariff on Canada because of the fentanyl. That's not where the fucking fentanyl is coming from. Or Donald Trump put a 50% tariff on Brazil because the president of Brazil, Lula, locked up Bolsonaro for trying to overthrow the goddamn government. And Bolsonaro's Donald Trump's boy. So Donald Trump, just out of spite and anger, puts a tariff on Brazil. That's not how you do tariffs. It's very much like, the mafia. That's how Donald Trump is handling our government, very much like the mafia. Or it was a couple days ago, he was on with some Fox News idiot, and he said that he was going to put a tariff on Switzerland because he didn't like he said the prime minister. I don't think Switzerland has a prime minister, but he says, the prime minister of Switzerland was very rude to me. I didn't like her tone, so I'm putting a tariff on him. What do you do with this shit? Seriously. Anyway, what I don't like about this is that tariffs can be a useful tool, but Donald Trump has screwed it so much that now tariff is a bad word. And it is a tax. It is literally a tax on us. And Scotus has, basically taken that one tool out of the tool bag. This is not going to be the end of it for Donald Trump. He's already implementing like this other tariff rule from a 1964 court decision. 1974. Apologies. You can put up to 15% tariff on a country max for a max of 150 days. He's got other tools to continue on with this. He's not giving up without a fight. He fucking loves this tariff thing. But here's the crazy thing, the fucking nuts thing about this. Trump's economic advisor, Howard Nutlick, I can't even say Lutnick anymore. It just comes out of me, Nutlick. But he used to be an executive at Cantor Fitzgerald. And he has now passed it off very nepotistically to his two 20-year-old sons. They're in their 20s, for God's sakes. And what they did right after Liberation Day, the big tariff thing that Donald Trump did in early April of last year, they started going up to these companies that are buying products from overseas. And Cantor Fitzgerald, headed by Lutnick's two sons, Uday and Kusay, I think their name are like Chad and Bryson or some ridiculous shit, but whatever. They have been going to these companies, buying up their tariff debt 25 cents on the dollar. I have a feeling that these guys, including Nutlick, knew that the Supreme Court were going to overturn this. Look, it was a 6-3 decision. John Roberts and Gorsuch and Amy Coney Barrett were the three conservative judges. And then, of course, the three Democratic judges weren't voting along with them. They were just voting against Trump's tariff executive emergency powers shit. When it comes to the economy and making sure that they protect wealthy people's money, the Supreme Court generally jumps in to protect that. Most of the time, Supreme Court, our particular Supreme Court, which is very conservative, always makes the bad decision, always makes the wrong decision. But when it comes to rich people's money, they will step in front of that particular bullet. But back to Cantor Fitzgerald and Uday and Kusei Lutnick. They bought up a bunch of tariff debt from a lot of different companies. By the way, if you're an American and you bought a product that's more expensive due to tariffs, you're not getting that money back. It ain't coming back to you. But those guys, those two brothers, are going to be making billions of dollars off of this. Because all of that money, which, by the way, Donald Trump says that we've taken in $800 billion in tariffs, which, by the way, we all pay for that. We are all paying for it. But those companies would be reimbursed by this Supreme Court ruling. But since a lot of them have sold their tariff debt to Cantor Fitzgerald, now that money, that 75 cents on the dollar, is going to be going into their pockets. Howard Nuttlick is making out like a fucking bandit. I mean, the only thing that most people know about him is that he lied about being on Jeffrey Epstein's island. But that guy is crooked as a dog's hind leg. I'll show you how crooked he is. After 9/11, Cantor Fitzgerald was in the World Trade Center building, and they lost, I think, something like 400 out of the 600 plus people that worked there. They died, obviously, in the towers collapsing. And they ended up getting a judgment, I believe, against American Airlines, Cantor Fitzgerald. And Howard Lutnick was the head of that at the time. And they ended up walking away with like $125 million settlement. Cantor Fitzgerald, not the people who died, not the families of the people who died, just Howard Nuttlick and Cantor Fitzgerald. That's the kind of corruption that we're dealing with right here. And his sons are going to be making so much fucking money. It's insane. By the way, if you're on Rumble, owned by Cantor Fitzgerald, just letting you know, okay? Let's move on here. God, there's just so much shit today. So much shit. We're still waiting on the war with Iran, and I am of the belief that it's going to be happening at any time. I checked the news before I, started filming here, and it hasn't happened yet. But we have 2 aircraft carriers. We have basically the entire fleet. We were supposed to do this last month, attack Iran again. And by the way, this is all at the behest of Israel. Donald Trump is fucking compromised. Benjamin Netanyahu's got some shit on him. And of course, all the money that he's taken from Miriam Adelson, giving them the Golan Heights, moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. We have been just basically Israel's bitch for such a long time. And this war with Iran that is imminent is all because Benjamin Netanyahu wants a greater Israel. So we have got basically the entire fleet out there. We would have done this last month, but we were busy overthrowing Venezuela and kidnapping Maduro. But we didn't have the naval fleet available to do what we want to do to Iran at that point. So now we're prepared. And honey, you do not move your entire fucking fleet, air support and battleships and battle groups and aircraft carriers. You do not move all of that across the planet unless you're planning on doing something. So war with Iran is imminent. I don't know if it's going to happen overnight. People have been saying or speculating that they were going to wait until the end of the Olympics, which is the end was today, Sunday, and it could pop off at any moment. I have no idea when, but it definitely could pop off. Yet again, the same shit that I keep talking about is that, this is at the behest of Israel. But honestly, we had solved this thing with Obama and the JCPOA. It was working. We had all of those nuclear examiners going in to the country. Even Donald Trump's chief military officer, what was the guy's name? Mad Dog Maddox. He even told Donald Trump, JCPOA is working. There's really no need for you to tear up the Iran nuclear deal. But Donald Trump hated Obama. You know, of course, Israel doesn't want this stuff. And Donald Trump, he is a puppet for Israel and for the Adelsons and for Netanyahu. So he tore it up, and it has been spiraling ever since. And that little display that he did where he dropped a shitload of Moabs on a mountainside saying, hey, we completely destroyed their nuclear. Well, why are we doing it now? If we completely destroyed their nuclear capabilities, then why are we doing it? So we're doing peace talks, supposedly, with Iran at the moment. And of course, look, I'm not here to defend Iran, man. Iran, what they're doing to their people is fucking wretched. Thousands of people, thousands of protesters have been killed in the latest uprising. The Ayatollah is a piece of shit, dictatorial, theocratic, psychopath. But we helped facilitate that. When they elected Mossadegh back in the 50s, that was their first democratic leader. They kicked out the Shah. And then we did not like that. So the CIA and MI5 went in there, took out Mossadegh, and we put the Shah back in power so we could continue to get oil from them on the cheap. And after about 25 years of the Shah doing his puppet dictator bullshit, the people rose up, and instead of doing it in a democratic way, they went into a theocratic way. And that's how you got the Ayatollah and the theocratic rule. And it has been going on ever since. Ironically, we scream and yell about Iran being an enemy, but we fucking made that shit happen. When Donald Trump last month was talking about, all you protesters out there, don't worry, we're coming to save you. Meanwhile, we're fucking shooting protesters here in America, but that's a different story. Here's the catch. Israel put in a poison pill into these negotiations that they need to give up their weapons, basically doing the Libya model, where we got the leader of Libya to give up his weapons, and as soon as he did, we went in there and overthrew him. And he ended up getting killed. And now Libya is basically a defunct state. And they do slave trading in town square. We did that. We destabilized the nation. And now it is a defunct nation. And that's what we want to do with Iran. Give up all of your weapons. They don't have any nukes. They haven't been able to develop it yet. But interestingly enough, what's the country that we don't fuck with? North Korea. Why? Because they have nukes. So I'm not saying that Iran should have nukes, but I am surprised that they haven't developed them because they have been under threat from Donald Trump for such a long ass time. And by the way, Joe Biden said he was going to get back into the JCPOA and he never did it. And here we are with Donald Trump just going further and further into this militarized Fourth Reich bullshit. Oh, man, they're already talking about it taking a couple of months. So that's kind of what they said with Iraq. And we're still there 20 years later. So do you think that this is going to be any easier? Really? Do you think that there's not going to be boots on the ground? Really? Oh, I thought Donald Trump was the dove. He was the peace president, man. He's bombed like 8 countries. He bombed Nigeria on Christmas Day. That dude is nothing but a warmonger. He's surrounded by warmongers. And Marco Rubio is the biggest fucking warmonger of them all. And he's the one that's basically handling Donald Trump's foreign policy. It is a mess. DHS, Department of Homeland Security, signs a $1 billion deal with Palantir. So start collecting facial recognition on anybody that's out there protesting, anybody that's not America First, white, Christian, conservative. You are the bad one. And if you're out at any protest, Palantir is going to be fucking taking pictures of you and putting you in a little database. And they just got paid $1 billion from the government, from the Department of Homeland Security to do it. Fantastic. I've touched on the Board of Peace in the past, and first of all, it's a big grift. The Board of Peace is Donald Trump's idea of replacing the UN. Donald Trump hates the UN because the UN is always telling him that, he's a warmonger and stop doing warmonger shit, and also stop funding the genocide in Gaza. And now that we've been like 2.5 years into the genocide, and it's anywhere between 500 to 750,000 dead Palestinians. The Palestinian Authority says that there was about 70,000 confirmed dead in Gaza, but that's only because they were able to actually confirm the body. There's so many people under rubble, which, by the way, they're paving over right now. You got Jared Kushner out there with this Board of Peace thing. The irony. Donald Trump's Board of Peace. Yes, he has never been for peace. He's really bored with it, and he wants war. We're going to call it the Board of Peace. I'm totally bored. By the way, they just had the big first meeting of the Board of Peace, which, by the way, if you are a country, you got invited by Donald Trump to come in. All of the quasi-normal countries, European countries, what have you, even Scheinbaum was offered to join the Board of Peace. First of all, you got to pay Donald Trump $1 billion. Just, I don't know where it goes, right into his pocket. Who knows? All of these batshit crazy authoritarian countries, they all signed on because they know how Donald Trump operates. Here, I'll give you $1 billion. You let me in the room. And the rest of the countries, I think it was 30 or 33 that signed up to be on the Board of the Peace. And the rest of them just said, no, it's fucking crazy. We're not paying you $1 billion. And by the way, Donald Trump says that he is going to be the El Presidente of the Board of Peace for life. And then he gets to pick his own successor. He's such fucking graft and corruption. It's just insane. But Donald Trump gives himself a $10 billion straight out of the Treasury, $10 billion for the Board of Peace. Donald Trump loves that $10 billion thing. I think he's suing the IRS for $10 billion, which he's probably not going to get, but they probably will settle with him, give him, I don't know, 10 million, 100 million just to shut him up. Because that's what we do. We appease the dictator. News organizations pay him off, or else he'll tie you up in litigation. But Jared Kushner, another failed real estate attorney, he has been talking about building this futuristic tech city in Gaza. Now that it's rubble, 90% of it is just completely destroyed. Genocide, ethnic cleansing, you might as well just start calling it Holocaust at this point. When you start getting into the million dead bodies territory, it's a fucking Holocaust, man. And we're watching it happen. Families just getting blown to pieces. Fathers walking out there with their children with their heads blown off. It's some of the most disturbing shit. Meanwhile, you got Jared Kushner talking about building a tech city, making sure there's a handful of military bases in Gaza to protect it, being run by some international thing where, Saudi Arabia and Qatar and United Arab Emirates and a handful of other countries are going to be taking care of the security. We're going to keep about 25,000 Palestinian slaves on hand for the futuristic tech city. And with all of these countries throwing in billions of dollars to Donald Trump's little UN replacement pipe dream, this little passion project of his, meanwhile, they had their meeting over the weekend and Donald Trump is fucking sleeping. Straight up, just snoring his fucking head off, man. Just zooted out. And then there was this guy. There was this billionaire. I can't remember his name right now, but he gets up there and they have this open mic where everybody can get up and talk. And this billionaire dude says that Gaza coastline alone is worth $50 billion. So this is what you get when you have a couple of defunct real estate assholes, Trump and Kushner, running this thing. They see real estate opportunities. He put out that AI thing about a Trump Gaza, and him and Netanyahu are sipping mojitos out by the pool. They're trying to literally make this shit happen. And they're using our American tax dollars to fund this thing on some ridiculous Board of Peace. What the fuck are we doing here, folks? It's all insane, man. And here's the thing, guys. we have a lot of Democrats in our House and Senate that are just bought off by AIPAC. And also we've got, the DMFI. That's another Israeli funding group funneling Israeli dollars into American politicians' pockets and coffers. It should be no Israeli money. Is this the United States of Israel? It really feels like it. There was one I heard, there was this little pop-up secret Israeli donor. It was called Elect Chicago Women. That is an Israeli super PAC. Elect Chicago Women. I mean, it's like Donald Trump's, cryptocurrency thing, World Liberty Financial. Just so goddamn benign. The banality of evil. The Elect Chicago Women. It sounds very nice. It sounds very clean and wholesome. Meanwhile, it's fucking Israeli PAC money going to crooked ass politicians. Let's move on here. Former Prince Andrew, Andy Mountbatten, Windsor, he gets arrested, but it's not about the sex stuff. It's about leaking information to Epstein, state secrets. So that's what he got arrested for. Of course, King Charles, King Chuck, he was like, I'm sorry, my brother. It sucks to suck. You're going to have to go to jail. We're going to lock you up in the tower. We're going to put you in the stockades. We'll allow people to throw fruits and vegetables at you. But Donald Trump was asked about Prince Andrew, and the only thing he said was, I feel really bad for the royal family. It's all so very sad. What, you're not sad about all the women that he molested and sexually assaulted, possibly killed? He's got no problem with that. And then, of course, he followed up with, but it doesn't matter because I was exonerated, completely exonerated. 1,000,000 times I'm mentioned in the files, but completely exonerated. I'm just watching all these other countries arrest their crooked leaders. And we have fucking Pam Bondi talking about the Dow. But the Dow is over 50,000 points. You don't like points? What's wrong with you? You don't like points? I hear you like stock trading. You don't like points? God, we're so fucking cooked. Speaking of which, the former South Korean president was locked up for trying to do an insurrection in South Korea. They arrested, booked, and locked that guy up just the same way that Lula did in Brazil with Bolsonaro. He tried to do a coup following in Donald Trump's footsteps, and he gets his ass locked up. I think he's in jail for like 29 years, which he'll be dead before he gets out because he's not a young man. So he's going to be in jail for the rest of his life for trying to do what Donald Trump did. It's like, you silly dictator, don't you know that tricks are for Donald Trump? Sorry, he's the only one that can get away with that because he's the only one that has a solid 29% of the country that will follow him around like he shoots Snickers bars out of his ass. We're just so fucking done, man. I mean, Mark Carney fucking read our obituary a couple of weeks ago. Our economy is cooking like bacon. We have gone full fascist with ICE invading our own country. They're trying to overthrow elections already before we even get to the midterms. Not to mention the dozens of skirmishes all over the planet, kidnapping fucking world leaders and bombing willy-nilly. And then, of course, all the corruption that Donald Trump is doing, selling pardons and doing international deals all over the planet with Qatar and Saudi Arabia for another golf course in Saudi Arabia, not to mention the Live Golf tournament, the bribes that Saudi Arabia gave Donald Trump. I mean, we're at a time where if there is a dearth of cash and that Donald Trump needs, he'll just reach out to Saudi Arabia. He'll reach out to the United Arab Emirates or Qatar or something and just get them to buy up a chunk of our debt. Because those are the only countries that haven't run away from us. You know, everybody else is running into the loving arms of China right now because of the tariffs and the economic fuckery. But we got Israel, we got Saudi Arabia. What other dystopian nightmare country is on our side. Everybody else is like, yo, man, America, she be losing her shit right now. We're gonna have to step back. But I can be a little jelly, watching South Korea and Brazil actually lock up their criminals, rule of law shit, whatevs. So Elon Musk is not going to go to Mars anymore. It's too hard. So he's talking about building a colony on the moon. It's like, dude, we already did that. We already went to the moon. It's a big rock. This is what you get from public-private partnerships. When we had NASA, we could at least have this national kind of feeling like we're all in this. We've all put in a little bit of money to get a man on the moon, to do something extraordinary. But now we have this private partnership with douchebag like Elon Musk and his little SpaceX, where he just blows up hundreds of millions of dollars worth of rockets on the daily. He's basically running every business he has into the ground, but yet gets subsidized by the government. And now he's like, we're not going to go to Mars, but we could definitely go to the moon. Now, excuse me, I need to email Jeffrey Epstein so I can go to a party on Epstein's fantasy island. It'll be fun. It'll be fantastic. Moving on, we've got, J.D. Vance. He's at this Board of Peace thing, and Donald Trump lets his little monkey boy get up there and speak, and of course immediately makes an ass out of himself. J.D. Vance is, God, man, he's the worst pick-me I've ever seen. I mean, dude, a couple years ago, you said that Donald Trump was America's Hitler, and now you are Hitler's vice president. He was a centrist-y kind of, libtard that went on CNN to bash rednecks. He literally wrote a book, Hillbillyology, to make fun of red state people. That's his claim to fame. Writing a book, making fun of the people that he is supposed to be supporting right now. All of those red states. He fucking hates you, man. J.D. Vance fucking hates you. Now, I could go off on J.D. Vance for a while, not to mention the fact that he, just recently said that we don't need judicial warrants anymore. Just kick down the doors and take people away. Do whatever you got to do, Customs and Border Protection. Do whatever you want, ICE. Laws don't matter anymore. I hate this guy. I really hate this guy. But at the same time, there's a reason to hate him, because he is a black hole of charisma. The guy is the worst. So he gets up there, he's on the mic, and he is taking AOC to task. AOC, she was in the Munich summit along with Marco Rubio, and she was asked a question about China and Taiwan in their relationship. And she had a pause. It was a little bit long and somewhat uncomfortable pause, like 15 seconds to think about the answer. But, and look, I like AOC very much, but at the same time, it seemed a little scripted. I'm not saying that the things she was talking about weren't good. She was saying a lot of the stuff that I agree with. But, I mean, she also seemed a little nervous. And CNN and a couple other news organizations gave her a little bit of praise. And J.D. Vance was jelly beans about it. And he's like, he gets up there on that mic and he's like, well, I was considering getting up here and taking a 15 to 20 second pause because CNN praised AOC for doing her little pause. And I thought that if I did that, then I'd get some praise too. He's Peter Thiel's boy. Peter Thiel spent millions of dollars to get him elected into the Senate. And he spends, a year and a half there and then becomes Donald Trump's VP pick because Peter Thiel is friends with Donald Trump's Uday and Kusei sons, Eric and Don Jr. And that's why J.D. Vance was able to get in the room to become vice president in the first place. So thanks to Peter Thiel, who just got a $1 billion contract from DHS for Palantir, he is the one that facilitated J.D. Vance getting there. The ladies from the I've Had It podcast, they said that J.D. Vance went to Peter Thiel's queer eye for the straight guy kind of thing. But, they also say that he is a failed drag queen. The rumors about him being gay, it's a possibility, whatever. I tell you what, me being in the gay community, Now, y'all straight people, y'all can have him, man. We do not want him anywhere near our community. JD Vance, he's the worst. And by the way, what is your name? James Donald David McFlabby Tits? He's changed his name like 4 times. How is he going to be able to vote? He's changed his name so many goddamn times. All of the married women out there who are going to be kicked off the voter rolls because they registered under their maiden name, and now that they have their husband's name, they're going to be able to vote. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent here, but fuck JD Vance. And fuck his little sad, pathetic little excuse for a joke. You have no riz, my friend. You got no motion. What the fuck are you doing? Oh, God, let's see here. Okay, so there was a shooter at a hockey game a couple of days ago, and it turns out that the shooter, I believe they killed 2 people and injured 3, but that person was trans. And oh my God, the right wing, they did, oh my God, this is their fantasy. They fucking love this. They love a good trans shooter. That way they can say, see, it's the trans people. Meanwhile, the billionaire class is ripping you off, and that's why your life sucks. Monopolies is why your life sucks. The corruption is why your life sucks. But no. It's trans people, it's immigrants. But turns out that trans shooter, full-on Nazi. Full-on tattoos with SS on her arm and swastikas and all kinds of shit. Says that they are to the right of Hitler, mentally damaged individual, this person. But, people like Matt Walsh are out there just screaming and yelling, look, another trans murderer. We have got to do something about the trans community. Jesus Christ, man. Transgender people are inherently nonviolent. We've got enough violence coming our way. You know what I mean? Enough people have been violent towards us. I mean, even if we were violent, it would kind of be justified. I've had my ass handed to me a number of times for being a trans woman. And it wasn't fun. Definitely not fun. But we're not violent people. And we're certainly not the cause of all your problems. Tighten up, folks, okay? Pay attention to what's really in front of you. The conspiracy is right dead in front of your eyes. The wealthy Epstein class run and own your ass. We have consolidated down to just a handful of corporations that run everything. The reason why that you has peasant brain right now is because you're so busy defending the free hand of the market and capitalism. We are so goddamn afraid of the ending of Atlas Shrugged that we are literally running into the loving arms of 1984. It just blows my mind. All you literary people out there will get what I just said. But, Matt Welsh, he's happy that it was a trans person. That way he can continue to talk his shit about trans people. Or Michael Knowles, he's on that same tip too. Just anybody that works for Ben Shapiro, they just hate the trans. But at the same time, they're kind of sad. You're really sad. Because it turns out that they were a right-wing Nazi. Because most mass shooters are right-wing Nazis. Sorry. Just the way it is. Okay, so I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but I really wanted to. The Stephen Colbert CBS debacle. The Ellison boys, they bought up CBS News. They put Barry Weiss in control of all CBS News, which she has absolutely no business doing, but whatever. And they are also in a bidding war with Netflix to buy Warner Brothers. And Donald Trump loves the Ellisons because they do his bidding. The Ellisons, there's a father-son team, and they are full-on Zionist. They are psychotic right-wingers. They are huge Trump donors. Look, corporations love fascism because fascism is the combination of the government and the corporate state. They love this shit. They're getting paid. And they've already bought Paramount, CBS, so they have a big, huge chunk of the media already. Oh, not to mention the fact they bought into TikTok as well, along with Rupert Murdoch, so they got their hand in social media. Now they want Warner Brothers, which runs CNN and HBO. That's no bueno, guys. this has always been the issue. This is the reason why our economy is in such a cocked hat. It's because we have monopoly. And when you have two psychotic oligarchs running the majority of our media, it hasn't happened yet. They have not bought Warner Brothers yet, but Donald Trump is leaning towards them over Netflix. And by the way, Netflix owning Warner Brothers is not a good thing either. It's just more consolidation, more corporate consolidation. So it's not good. Warner Brothers is a successful company. There is no reason for them to be selling, but they're selling. Some executives are going to be making buckets of money for this sale. And since the window is small under a fascistic leader like Donald Trump, they're trying to get in all of their mergers and acquisitions in as quickly as possible. Okay, so that is the 30,000 foot view of all of this. That's what the stakes are. So you matriculated on down to Stephen Colbert, who I believe is going to be out of a job in May. He got his walking papers last year. They had the excuse that Colbert and The Tonight Show are not making a lot of money, whatever. It was always bullshit. All of this is a sop to Donald Trump because Donald Trump doesn't like Stephen Colbert, and he doesn't like Stephen Colbert making fun of him doing his impersonation of Donald Trump. By the way, my Donald Trump impersonation is way better. Sorry, just saying. I don't think he tries very hard, but sorry. I'm just taking a little shot at Stephen Colbert. He's fine. I liked him better when he was on Comedy Central. Right now he's kind of a centristy lib, and I sure as shit didn't like him when he was just Russiagate all day long, every day, back in Donald Trump's first term. Not that there wasn't anything there, but it was very much small potatoes. They could have gone after Donald Trump over a myriad things, but anyway, I digress. So, Stephen Colbert has on this guy, James Tallarico. James Tallarico is running for Senate. He's a Democrat, and he's running for Senate in Texas. Now, there was this guy. His name is Colin Allred. He is a former football player, and he ran against Ted Cruz and lost in 2024. And then he was going to run again for the Senate this year. And then he pulled out. On the Republican side, they've got the current senator, and then they've got this other guy named Paxton, who is possibly one of the most corrupt people in America. He doesn't hold a candle to Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the president. Nobody is a bigger corrupting force than Donald Trump. But Ken Paxton, he is so corrupt that his own right-wing state legislator tried to have him impeached, but it didn't work. They didn't have enough votes. And now Ken Paxton is running for the Senate. He was Attorney General, and now he is running for the Senate in Texas on the right-wing side. Now, the right, this is the crazy thing. James Tallarico has already got his hat in the ring for the Senate. Colin Allred pulls out. And then all of a sudden, Republicans were leaking out a whole bunch of tweets on Twitter about getting Jasmine Crockett to join the race. And after, all these tweets about her jumping into the Senate race went viral, Jasmine Crockett decides to jump in. I might be confusing the timeline here. Maybe Colin Allred pulled out after she jumped in or just before. But Colin Allred started off kind of quasi-progressive and then just became a centrist-y Dem, and he ran a very lackluster campaign in 2024 against Ted Cruz. So losing him for this current race for the Senate is not really that big of a deal. So now what we have is Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico. Look, not everybody is going to be as left-wing as me, and I'm not going to bash either one of them, but I think that the Republicans think that if they get Ken Paxton, they would have a better shot at winning over Jasmine Crockett. This is what Republicans think, than over James Tallarico. James Tallarico is a white man who is very devout Christian. And he said some good things. He's also says some stuff that I don't really like. Both him and Jasmine Crockett have some kind of, they've gotten some donations from AIPAC. Some say that they didn't, or, I got it for the trip and I didn't really get the money for it. They just paid for my trip to Israel. And I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing going to Israel? Whatever. I like Jasmine Crockett, she's got a good fieriness when she is questioning somebody in a House committee or something like that, and I'll give her credit for that. But I also think that she is just more of the same. She's very Kamala Harris. She's very, she's very Joe Biden. She's very middle of the road Democrat. She's not as progressive as I would like. And neither really is James Tallarico, but anything is better than, the current batch of Republicans running for Senate in Texas. So I'll take either one of them. So Stephen Colbert, who has had Jasmine Crockett on his program at least twice that I know of, has on James Tallarico. Now, Brendan Carr, who is the head of the FCC, who has had it out for The View and for Jimmy Kimmel and for Stephen Colbert for a while, they have been threatening to do this. They haven't done it yet, but they've been threatening to put in this new rule, this fairness in broadcasting, that if you give this side airtime, you have to give them another. But since shows like The View and shows like The Tonight Show are not news organizations, they have been getting a pass on that. Now, here's the crazy thing. The fairness doctrine was a thing until Ronald Reagan got rid of it. And Fox News grew out of the fact that they didn't have the fairness doctrine anymore. So what had been working for them for such a long time, now Brendan Carr, head of the FCC, wants to implement it. Not on the news, not on Fox News, but he would love to implement it on The Tonight Show, which is not really a news program. The FCC and Brendan Carr threatened Colbert that he might get in trouble if he aired the James Tallarico interview, but he aired it on YouTube. And where a normal interview with a politician from Stephen Colbert would get, I don't know, maybe 200,000-300,000 views, ended up getting like 6 million views. It's very much the same thing with Barry Weiss canceling that CCOT story about the prison camp in El Salvador. She cancels it, and it ends up airing in Canada, which ends up getting spread into America, where only a handful of people would have probably watched that segment. Now everybody watched that segment because Barry Weiss tried to censor it. Well, with Brendan Carr trying to censor this particular interview with James Tallarico, now everybody watched it. James Tallarico has gotten a lot of fucking motion out of this. He's gotten a lot of donations out of this. And Jasmine Crockett is pretty sore about it. Even though she had been on Stephen Colbert's program in the past, she is kind of pissed off about it. And she honestly, I saw an interview with her where she addressed this and she didn't really give the best answer. She kind of came off a little salty about it. And now it's looking more like James Tallarico might end up winning the primary. And I'm seeing a lot of people who are out there playing identity politics talking about that it's only because she's black. And it's like, it's not about her being a black woman, okay? She has already been on Stephen Colbert's show. She actually has more name recognition than this Tallarico guy. And like I said, both of them are pretty centrist, middle of the road Dems. I would prefer them over Ken Paxton any day. I'll take either one of them. I hope that one of them beats him and becomes a blue senator in that red state. But at the same time, there's not a lot of, it ain't Mom Donnie. It sure as shit ain't Bernie Sanders. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, some other people are speculating that since Stephen Colbert has a religious streak in him, I believe he's Catholic, that's the reason why he prefers Tallarico. I don't think that he has said who he prefers. I think he just interviewed James Tallarico. He is very Christian, and that kind of holds sway in Texas. Whether you agree with this or not, Texas is still a very red state with a lot of racist good old boys. Like I said, I would prefer either of them to Ken Paxton or the current Republican senator. But at the same time, this whole thing is a fucking mess. And all of this has got to do with this big merger with the Ellisons, Netflix, and Warner Brothers. And all of that is kind of in the purview, but it's kind of what's the puppet strings above this thing. And then you got, The View is in the balance with this decision by the Federal Communications Commission and Brendan Carr, which, by the way, he went on air and said, well, we never told him that he couldn't. But Stephen Colbert read the letter that he wrote him, and it said, that they will come after you. And then in the interview on Fox News with Brendan Carr, they asked him, are you going to change this law? Well, we haven't changed the law yet, but you have full intention to. Well, we are pursuing it. So what is it, man? Did you say that they couldn't air the Tallarico interview? Or were you threatening them behind the scenes and then trying to play it off like it wasn't a big deal? You guys want to do this shit. It's just more censorship. If the Ellisons end up winning this fight for Warner Brothers, they will own CNN. And you're going to watch CNN news, which I kind of find it to be very middle of the roady, kind of both sides. They say this, you decide kind of news. It's going to go full right wing too. MSNBC, it's lib coded, but they're not progressive Democrats. They're not on the social democratic tip. You know what I mean? No, they're not even MSNBC anymore. They're MS Now. No, I like it. MS Now. It's fantastic. I love it. Oh my God, man. We got to be very careful where we're getting our information from. And if the Ellisons buy up CNN and Warner Brothers and HBO, just expect that news to not be trusted anymore. I wonder what kind of goon that they'll put in place, another Barry Weiss type, but I guarantee you it will not be great. Speaking of which, just a little side note, Anderson Cooper, he works at CNN, but he also worked at CBS as well. And he has now left CBS because of what Barry Weiss is doing over there. So, just another news guy, which, by the way, he's not that much of a news guy. He's a fucking Vanderbilt, man. He's richer than 6 foot up a bull's ass. He doesn't have to work in any of these places, but he is. Whatever. It is what it is. But anyway, he left. So just some more fallout due to Barry Weiss being in control of the news at CBS, thanks to the Ellisons. Okay. I'm sure you guys have probably seen this by now, but Bobby Kennedy did a kind of a boys being boys, bros hanging out, being manly men with other men with Kid Rock, who, by the way, Kid Rock in a pair of shorts, not a good look, y'all. Are his legs atrophied? I mean, my legs are thicker than his. Oh my God, he's walking around on like sticks. And by the way, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. being one of those gym jeans guys is hilarious because he is fucking Johnny Bravo, man. He doesn't do leg day. You've never seen him do squats. He'll do curls all day and pull-ups and push-ups and sit-ups and shit. He doesn't do legs, man. You never skip leg day. I did a leg day today. You know what I'm saying? So they are doing this very hetero masculine little workout together. And they're over at Kid Rock's house. He's got his own gym. And I'm watching people like RFK and Pete Hegseth, and these guys are running some very important things in the government, but they spend more time filming themselves at the gym. It's like, don't you have jobs to do? I mean, honestly, I would rather Pete Hegseth work out 24 hours a day and never be, the head of the Department of Defense, but we don't get our wishes most of the time. They do a little workout. They're sweating to the oldies. Listen to the Ba with the Ba. They're walking around shirtless, and it's so gay. It's just so gay. Little manly touching here and there. It's not a big deal. And then RFK gets into an ice bath in his jeans. He will never get out of them jeans. He does not want you to see them fucking skinny legs. The guy drank that methylene blue shit. It turns your tongue blue. It's like a fish tank cleaner. I mean, he eats roadkill. He swims in rivers of filth. He's got everybody losing their mind over fucking Tylenol. Crazy ass shit, man. Then him and Kid Rock finish off their workout in the sauna together, drinking raw milk. gym jeans, cold plunges, and raw milk. All to the ball with the ball. Fantastic. Oh my God, man. Y'all are so embarrassing. Aren't you embarrassed? I mean, I'm embarrassed for you. Oh God. Speaking of embarrassing. Okay, so Nick Shirley. I did a video on him. He is basically the reason why Minnesota got invaded. Now look, Donald Trump always hated Ilhan Omar. He does not like the Somali people. Of course, anybody who is black, Donald Trump has a problem with, especially the way he says black. He did a Black History Month meeting recently where he met with a handful, there was a room full of black Republican men, and he just basically made fun of all of them while he was there and talked about the 5 black people that he knows. Herschel Walker says I'm not racist. Mike Tyson says that I'm great. He says I'm not racist. None of you think I'm racist. How come the blacks don't like me? I love the blacks. Anyway, so Nick Shirley, who did his little investigation of Somali daycare centers in Minnesota, is basically the precursor to the invasion of Minnesota and Minneapolis because of the fraud. You know what I mean? And it's my opinion that Nick Shirley, I don't want to be ableist, but I don't think he's all there. I think that he is a little slow-witted. From what I gather, he doesn't even drive. His mom and dad drive him around. You know, he still lives with his parents, but he's an investigative reporter. This guy used to be a prank guy. He was a prank guy on YouTube for years. And then all of a sudden he became a conservative influencer, went and hung out at the White House. And the next thing you know, within the month, he is in Minneapolis investigating fraud by this guy named Dave. I don't even know the dude's last name, but apparently there's all kinds of fraud and corruption that's going on in Minneapolis through the daycare centers, which turns out not true. And the fraud that they did have had already been prosecuted by Tim Walz's Justice Department. And a lot of those people went to jail. But it was the excuse that Donald Trump wanted because Minnesota's a blue state. Minneapolis is a very blue city. Donald Trump wanted to invade it. He also wanted to go after the legal immigrants living there. It was never about going after the criminals and the illegal immigrants. It's always been about, I don't like black and brown people. I need an excuse to go after them. I don't like them voting in elections, and I want them gone. I don't care if they're citizens or not. I don't care if they're doing it the right way. I need them gone. And Nick Shirley's little bullshit ass investigation made that possible. So, okay, brush up to date. Nick Shirley recently was in California, and this guy, he is now talking about dogs are voting in California. Apparently somebody registered their dog to vote in California. Now, of course, it turns out that the dog did not vote. The system noticed that it was a fake name, noticed that it was not a real human being, and put the kibosh on it. Nick Shirley didn't mention that in his reporting. And it turns out that the person who registered the dog to illegally vote is a Republican woman. So all of the bad for his bullshit scenario and for Trump's bullshit scenario. It seems like the election system worked and it stopped some voter fraud. That woman, a Republican woman, and by the way, there have been a lot of cases of Republicans trying to vote in, one state and then also vote in another state. But they don't talk about that kind of fraud. It's always the black and brown people, and then 3 million people voted illegally and we need to go stop them. Just absolutely ridiculous. It's not voter fraud, y'all. It's election fraud. When they kick people off the voter rolls because they have similar names to somebody else in another state who happened to pass away, that is election fraud. Dinesh D'Souza went to jail for election fraud, another Republican. Voter fraud is very few and far between. Billions and billions and billions of votes that have happened over the last 20, 30, 40 years. And they've only found a handful of cases, like under 100. Since like the late 80s, they've been going back investigating this shit. And since the late 80s, I think there's like 75. Since the year 2000, there's only been like 32. So voter fraud just doesn't happen. There's no payoff. It's not like you're going to get a $50,000 check on the other side of this. Nobody is getting this. It's not the great replacement theory, but that's what Republicans really believe, because you got a lot of Republican idiots out there spreading that lie ad nauseum over and over again, starting from Tucker Carlson going all the way down to some dumbass influencer like Nick fucking Shirley. And I saw a video of him recently where he goes to this house in California, in LA, and he knocks on the door and he says, "There's a woman in here who is reportedly 125 years old and she's voted 55 times. How is that even possible?" And keep in mind that Nick Shirley's a fucking kid. He's like in his early 20s. He doesn't know his ass from his elbow. And if you are an older person, you probably have voted in maybe 50 elections. Hell, I've probably voted in at least 25. Because there's an election every single year. I vote every year. I also vote in the primary, so sometimes I vote twice a year. Oh shit, Nick. Don't come after me. I voted twice. In 2024, I voted twice. You know what? As a matter of fact, last year, I voted twice too. I voted in the primary for mayor and the general for mayor. Oh shit, man. 2 times in 1 year. So I vote a lot. So this woman, who turned out she's not 125, is a clerical error. She's like 80. And he knocks on the door and her husband, who is 82, answers. And he goes, "Yes, she lives here. Yes, she probably has voted that many times. No, she's not 125. What the fuck are you doing on my property? Get out of here, you crazy kid." But I just thought that it was absolutely amazing that they're so busy looking for some kind of voter fraud. Meanwhile, you got Elon Musk out there just rigging elections, giving people $1 million checks. Hell, as a matter of fact, in Georgia, where they just raided the Fulton County Election Board office to steal all of their ballots, which, by the way, they want to do this year too, Elon Musk, according to the election officials in Georgia, should be arrested for what he tried to do in 2024 with his election fuckery. So, Nick Shirley, the call is coming from inside the house, man. You want to go after voter fraud? Why don't you look at your own goddamn party, man? Not to mention the millions and millions of dollars that get dumped into elections through legal means, and dark money, which, by the way, is just already wretched and horrible. We should be getting money out of politics, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards at the moment. Anyway, Nick Shirley, go fuck yourself, man. I think I'm being generous by saying that Alex Preddy and Nicole Good, their blood is on your hands. You started that shit. I know Donald Trump wanted to go in there anyway, but you gave him the reason to do it. I'm going to blame you for it. And your mom and dad, stop giving this dumbass rides to places, man. Because everywhere he goes, he just fucks up. My God, man. Do some goddamn parenting. Take a hold of your kid. Grab him by the scruff of his neck. That boy needs a spanking. Boy, if you were in front of me, I'd bend you right over my knee. Jesus. Okay. Oh, God. Gallup has been doing polling probably longer than anybody. They are now no longer doing presidential popularity voting. The number one polling center, now they're not stopping doing polling. They're just not doing presidential polling anymore. And I think that it is because they did a recent poll that put Donald Trump below 30%. Donald Trump has been in the low to mid 30s for a while, even with all of the right-wing polling places like Rasmussen and stuff like that. He is still on average 38%. Most places are coming back around 34, 35%. He is fucking spiraling out of control. And I think that Gallup did a poll recently where it was 28, 29. I'm just speculating here. But all of a sudden for them to come out and say, we're not doing polling anymore on the president, it makes me feel like they did not want the hassle. They were like, if we come out with this number, Trump is going to lose his mind. Ketchup bottles are going to be flying all over the place, and he's going to sue us into oblivion. I mean, he tried to sue that woman, Seltzer, from the Iowa registry over her polling. Now, she did end up going to court over that. This small bean, small potato woman this Seltzer lady. She won the case, but she had to go through a whole bunch of shit. I'm sure she had to spend a lot of fucking money for her legal defense to beat this, but the courts at least threw that out. I just think that Gallup, they just decided we don't want the hassle. They decided we're just not doing this anymore, at least not with the current president that we have. I mean, I guess I understand if that's the reason why. I guess I get that. But at the same time, Jesus Christ, stop trying to placate to these fucking fascists, man. He is the guy that gets the participation trophy. He just got a clean coal trophy. He got the FIFA Peace Prize trophy. They got his name on everything. They gave him a boulevard in Florida. Oh my God, there's another one. They're changing the name of the Palm Beach International Airport, which, by the way, I just love it, Palm Beach International. But they're changing the name. They've already got the Florida State Legislature ready to change it to the Donald J. Trump International Airport. Just another participation trophy. But here's the kicker. Donald Trump must have got wind of it because he has since trademarked his name. And I hear that he's going to be selling Donald Trump merch at the airport. So they're going to change it to the Donald Trump International Airport, and he's going to be selling merch. And by the way, if he's trademarking his name and his name is franchised, does that mean that the government of Florida is going to have to pay him to use his name? I mean, that's how Donald Trump has made most of his money. Not that he builds a building, that he sells his name to slap onto the side of the building. It was built by somebody else. And he franchises his name out to give it some kind of hype. It's the Trump building. We got a bunch of Trump buildings, well, they used to be Trump buildings, all on the West Side Highway up around 56th Street. They have since taken his name off of it. But back in the day, those buildings, I believe they're Chinese owned. But he sold them his name and the franchise rights to put Trump on the side of the building so he could make some fucking money. So he is going to have an airport named after him, which, by the way, I mean, God, Republicans are so sycophantic. They want to put him on money. They have already got banners on the side of the Department of Labor. He's slapped his name on the goddamn Kennedy Center, which, by the way, they've closed down because nobody wants to play there anymore except for fucking Kid Rock and Lee Greenwood. I'm proud to be an American because at least I know I'm free. You can't have Lee Greenwood headlining Lee Greenwood is doing he's doing a residency, just a full-on 6-month residency at the Kennedy Center. I refuse to call it the Trump Kennedy Center. But yeah, man, it's just another one of his grifts to go along with the $10 billion that he's suing the IRS over, or the $10 billion that he's grifting the Treasury over for his Board of Peace. Oh, God, man. Oh, I'm so embarrassed. I don't understand why conservatives can't look at this and just go, oh my God, man, it's so sad. This whole thing is just so fucking sad. I cannot believe that we've been strung along by this fucking corrupt moron for this long. I mean, the guy is fake as fuck. His skin don't look that color. His hair doesn't look like that. It's combed around his head. You know, his ties are really long to cover up his big gut. You think Melania married him for his looks? My God, man. She's like, just put money in bag. I want $75 million put in bag for movie, for film. I do film. I get $75 million. Give me money. Well, she didn't get $75 million. She got, what, $28 million for the film? Guys, they are doing the corruption so brazenly. It makes George W. Bush and Dick Cheney look like fucking statesmen, man. It makes these third world dictators out there who do this corruption on the daily, it makes them look like goddamn saints. He is selling pardons to that Binance guy, CZ, who ended up buying $1 billion. I think it was $1 billion worth of Trump Liberty coin or some shit. There was a guy that got busted for corruption. of some kind, tax evasion. And then his mother went to Mar-a-Lago, joined one of the Mar-a-Lago parties, gave Donald Trump $1 million donation, and then 2 weeks later, that guy gets pardoned. The reality TV couple, which, just one of those marriage of conveniences. The guy is gay as Christmas and the wife is just pretending like everything is fine, but they're doing a reality show and they've been cheating on their taxes and then they get pardoned. And then there was another guy that did some kind of corruption scheme, got pardoned by Donald Trump, then did it again, got busted again, got arrested again for it, and then Trump pardoned him again. He pardoned George fucking Santos. George Santos. The guy who ripped off a homeless guy for $3,000 to help save his dog from a cancerous tumor. He got pardoned. Republicans call the man daddy. Racist ass Melly Gibson's called him daddy. Tucker Carlson calls him daddy. Daddy's home and he's going to give you a vigorous spanking. Why aren't you embarrassed? Everywhere he goes, screaming and yelling about Joe Biden being the worst president of all time and sleeping all the time. Donald Trump sleeps everywhere. It's pathetic. What are we talking about here? Y'all aren't embarrassed. And here's the kicker. Recently, they did a poll. It wasn't Gallup. If the election was today between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, Kamala Harris wins by 8 points. A couple weeks before that, they had a poll about Biden's presidency as opposed to Trump's current presidency. Joe Biden gets a higher rating than Donald Trump does right now. And don't even get started on Barack Obama. They did a poll of him as well very recently about Barack Obama's presidency approval rating and Donald Trump's approval rating. Donald Trump's approval rating was 37 percentage points. Barack Obama was 56. 19 points. Donald Trump better not run for president again. He won't make it. I doubt he'll make it out through the end of the year. For God's sakes, we're going to be saying J.D. Vance by 2028. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm not saying I'm wishing ill on the president. I'm just saying, looking the way he looks and acting the way he acts and getting his Alzheimer's medication, him looking very lethargic with his rhinoceros leather skin. The dog don't look good, man. He ain't going to make it. The idea that he would run for a third term and we just, yo, Barry, you want to handle this for us? Barry would win in a landslide, Of course, the Supreme Court would probably go, no, I'm sorry, Barack Obama, you had 2 consecutive terms. Donald Trump's weren't consecutive, so we're going to allow him to run for a third, but not you, black man. It's because he's black and his name is Hussein. Barack Hussein Obama. He's not more popular than me. I'm sorry. Not a good president. The worst we ever had next to Sleepy Joe. Speaking of Trump. I'm laughing at this so I don't cry, okay? This is not good. Donald Trump recently came out and said that we've reduced the trade deficit in 1 year down 78%. It's amazing. You're going to be seeing so much good stuff in 2 weeks. Trust me, it's coming. You're going to be so amazed. We've reduced it down 78 percentage points. Well, Washington Post, which, by the way, I got a lot to say about the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, who basically gave Donald Trump a $75 million bribe for his wife to make her movie film star. They just fired like all of their foreign reporters. Washington Post is no longer doing foreign reporting. It's just over, But they're still doing domestic reporting, apparently. And they said that our trade deficit hit a record high of $1.2 trillion. So with Donald Trump coming out there saying 78% reduction in our trade deficit due to my tariffs. I love the word tariffs, my favorite word. I love tariff, just short of terrific. Fantastic, folks. But according to the Washington Post, we are at a record high of $1.2 trillion. Wow, man. Oh, I would say this is good news, but, it's just interesting news. They did a poll of 18 to 34-year-olds, so the youngest voting bloc. And it turns out that AOC, they like the most for president in 2028. Now, yet again, we are way too early to be talking about the goddamn president right now. It's just stupid. But they did poll the 18 to 34-year-olds, and they have AOC at 42%. Pete Buttigieg, who, by the way, I do not like Pete Buttigieg, okay? He is very milquetoasty, very middle of the road, very politician-y, does his own version of his Barack Obama impersonation. There's so many of them out there that are like that, you know? There's him, there's that guy Shapiro from Pennsylvania. Both of those guys, they do Barack Obama impersonations, and don't you know, only one person around here can do a Barack Obama impersonation. That's me. Thank you very much. 4 more years. Michelle, back that ass up. Just say it. Well, anyway, Barack Obama did a little interview with Brian Tyler Cohen. He works for Midas Touch, and I got my issues with Brian Tyler Cohen. You know, I did a video on him and Chorus, but that's a different story. But he has on Barack Obama. He asked him a question about, you know, what was the one thing that you wanted to know when you first became president? What was the first question you asked? And Barack Obama's like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you know, I've talked to some other politicians, and, you know, some of the stuff that they would want to know, it's like, you know, about, like, let's just say about the aliens. Are they real or not? And Barack Obama just kind of offhandedly just looked at him and goes, yeah, that was the first question I had. What about the aliens? I mean, personally, that would not be my first question. My first question would be like, give me the JFK files. I want to know, was it the CIA? I would want that kind of shit. I don't really give a flying fuck about the goddamn aliens. Obviously, the aliens look at us and go, they're not ready yet. We're not hanging out. Do I think that there's a possibility that there are aliens? Of course, we're talking about billions of stars out there and billions of planets in the universe. Hell, in our own goddamn galaxy, I guarantee you there's going to be some other life form out there, but they ain't coming here. And if they are here and they saw what we were doing, they probably wouldn't want to interfere. You know, just let them blow themselves up, and then maybe we'll come visit maybe the next time around when they get their shit together. But Brian Tyler Cohen asked Barack Obama that, and Donald Trump, not to be outdone, and of course, weapon of mass distraction, I'm releasing all of the alien files. Everything that you wanted to know, I'm going to be putting it out there. Don't pay attention to the Epstein files. All of the aliens, they're everywhere. They're among us, folks. They're all little green men, and they're all voting in elections. That's why we got to stop all of the illegal aliens. Brown, purple, green, whatever color, we got to stop them. And Thomas Massey immediately jumped on and goes, dude, these Epstein files are not going anywhere. I don't care how many alien files you release. We're still talking about this shit, dog. It's still here. And Donald Trump is all over them shits. Oh, yeah, I mentioned a second ago about the banner that they have at the Labor Department. They have also hung a big Donald Trump face banner off of the Department of Justice building, their headquarters. I mean, it's so North Korea. It's so fucking dictatorial nonsense. Hanging up pictures of the president, slapping his name on things, want to put his name on money. What are we doing, people? What are we doing? If you voted for Donald Trump in 2016, I give you a pass on that. I get it. I totally get it. Because Hillary Clinton is terrible. And a lot of people went, not a lot, but a few people went from Bernie to Donald Trump because they were both running on this kind of populist thing. And even though Donald Trump is a fake populist, Bernie's actually a real one. But I get that. And maybe I even give you a pass for voting for him again in 2020. Okay, whatever. If COVID didn't do it for you and didn't wreck your brain, you know, and you wanted to vote for Donald Trump in 2020. But if you voted for Donald Trump in 2024, after you tried to overthrow democracy on January 6th, there's really nothing I can say for you. But if you are out there defending him now, after all of the corruption and the selling of the pardons and all of the foreign adventures and the wars and Iran's coming up and the kidnapping of Maduro in Venezuela and threatening Greenland and Panama and Mexico threatening to shoot rockets at them, and then all the tariffs and throwing our economy into a cocked hat, the entire world economy into a cocked hat. Not to mention the invasion of our own country with military boots on the ground in form of ICE and Customs and Border Protection, and you're still defending this shit. I got nothing for you, man. When Donald Trump passes away and he shuffles off this mortal coil, it ain't just going to be Americans celebrating. The whole world over is going to celebrate. It's going to be a sigh of fucking relief. I'm not saying that there's not a other horrible dictatorial fascist out there waiting in the wings, but none of them have the sway over his party and his people like Donald Trump does. When that guy passes away, the world will be a better place. He is the cult of personality. He is the Hitler of the 21st century. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that Hitler was the man of the century for the 20th century because he had such an impact. It was a bad impact, but he had an impact. Donald Trump is filling that space right now. If we manage to... God, I lost my train of thought. There's a big gust of wind scared the shit out of me. I just want you guys to wake up and get it. You know, I know you don't want to be woke. I get it. But he's fucking you. You know, 2 days before he was inaugurated, he did a multi-billion-dollar meme coin scam on his own people. He's ripping you off. He's ripping you off more than he's ripping us off. And we're not even buying, I'm not even talking about the merch and all that shit that you spend on, and the flags that you put in your front yard, and all of the excuses that you have to make, you know, to defend this guy. There's never been a more corrupt president. There's never been one that is more detrimental to our democracy than that man. But you bend you over backwards. You twist yourselves into pretzels to defend this guy. I feel sad for you. I do. You know, not for Trump and his corrupt regime, not for Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance. They all know what they're doing. You know, Marco Rubio, you know, they're participants in this. But the people who are voting, who are getting screwed over, who are having their hospitals closed down, their grocery prices going up, their medical expenses going up. He cut all of your fucking health care and then threw a great Gatsby party. He cut your fucking food stamps, which more white people are beneficiaries of food stamps than black and brown people. But he's got you all twisted up in the mix thinking about trans people and immigrants. Meanwhile, they're running out the back door with all of your money. He's got you convinced that, you know, he's the second coming of Jesus Christ. He's God's prophet for the new year. Jennifer Welsh of I've Had It, she said it best. She said that it is a mega church pastor for politics. That's what Donald Trump is. And what does a mega church pastor do? He fleeces his own parishioners. Well, that's what Donald Trump is doing to you. He's fucking us all, but he's fleecing you for everything that you've got, including, you know, your own sanity and morality. You call yourselves Christian, man. I'm more Christian than you are. I believe more in the teachings of Jesus Christ than you do, and I'm an atheist. It just blows my mind. I wish you guys would learn. I wish you guys would figure this out, but unfortunately, you have yet to do so. But I have a feeling that when Donald Trump devalues the dollar so much that we go into a Great Depression, you might think a little bit differently. And you know, don't kid yourself. I know some friends of mine who are economists, man. He wants the dollar to fail so they can come in and buy up everything on the cheap, you know, disaster capitalism. Wait for everything to crumble, wait for the disaster to happen, and then come in there with all your riches and buy up everything. Just like Cantor Fitzgerald did with the 9/11 stuff. They're waiting for the disaster to hit, and they've got all of the money, and then they just go in and buy up all the mom and pops. They've already collected basically 90% of all of the wealth on the planet, these Epstein oligarchs. And now they are come for the last 10%. They want to turn everybody into peasant fucking slaves and just move to a mountaintop and own us all. And you guys are so twisted about immigrants and trans people that you are willing to give the Epstein billionaire oligarch class everything that you've got, including your own goddamn vote. You know, how do you look at Trump? How do you look at Elon Musk? How do you look at Nutlick and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and Peter Thiel and think that they have your best interests at heart? They are vultures. They are feeding off the dying corpse of America. But y'all think this is making America great again. AI, data centers, and your prison camps on the other side of town. And that's going to be the only options left for you. What are you going to do? Cryptocurrency, betting on Polymarket, and doing OnlyFans. That's the only things that we have left in America that make money. Regular jobs, they don't pay. And if they do pay, they're paying the same thing that they were paying 10 years ago. Meanwhile, everything is more expensive because inflation's through the roof and unemployment's through the roof. My God, I could talk about this for all the live long day, and I probably will, but not today. I am done. I'm exhausted. I hope that you enjoyed this. I didn't give you anything to laugh about, and I'm so sorry. I really wish that I had given you something fun, but I ultimately, nothing is fun right now, and it all sucks, and I'm so goddamn sorry about that. Happy Monday, because that's when this is going to air. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Please like and subscribe if you want more doom and gloom from somebody like me, and I hope you guys have a great day. And if you're in the Northeast with me and you're dealing with this blizzard, break out these snow boots and the snow shovels. Y'all got some digging to do. I got a car out there that looks like a snowman. I'm gonna have to deal with that later on. But anyway, hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I will catch you next time. You take care. Bye-bye. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. Keep rocking.